First of all, it's 34 charges that were just recycled.
Right.
It's the same charge over and over again. This is a misdemeanor from 2016. Mike Carter brought this up. The statute of limitations, 2 years. Even if you make it a felony, it's 5 years. 52% of felonies in New York City is downgraded to misdemeanors. And this is what he wants to do. And I want to bring in right now former President Trump's personal attorney, America's mayor, former New York City mayor, Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, good to see you. Let me ask you this. I just don't understand, in a city that's downgrading felonies, how do you turn around and say, we're going to take a misdemeanor from 2016 with a 2-year statute of limitation and then recycle it 34 times and say, we're tough on crime in New York City?
Well, because you're a corrupt lawyer, a corrupt prosecutor who was put in there by George Soros for the purpose of creating chaos, havoc. One of 50 or 60 that he spent millions of dollars on. He's probably one of the single biggest reasons for all the violence in New York. He not only the individuals that he releases that beat people up, throw them on the subways, and I mean any number of them have been outlined in the newspapers. But he creates a sense of entitlement among criminals, so that the crimes that we have today are much bolder than I ever remember, because they have a champion. Bragg is the criminal's. Right. He's the best thing that happened in the history of New York City.
Well, I got to tell you, Rudy, one of the things I've noticed is that Bragg almost sounds like he's running for New York governor. It was such a political move that he made with this press conference. I do want to ask you, though, I think one of the big issues that we need to highlight here is that there was a leak. These charges were leaked to a reporter. Should there not be a leak investigation into this unlawful grand jury disclosure? Because my feeling is that you would have the DA's fingerprints all over this.
Well, sure. If we were a city and state of laws, that would be true. But we're a corrupt city and state. And it's Democrats who did the leaking, so obviously it's not going to be investigated any more than Cuomo stuffing all those elderly people in nursing homes and watching them die, or all the money that Mrs. de Blasio took that never was investigated, or I can go on and on. I mean, this indictment, by the way, is a piece of junk. I probably have reviewed 10,000 indictments. I probably brought the most important indictments of the 20th century and convicted people. This is a piece of total junk. It's even worse than he was talking. This is a misdemeanor that's attaching itself to another misdemeanor in order to become a felony. I mean, you got to be kidding. And that's, he should give his law degree back if he actually got one.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. I was listening to Trump's attorneys after this arraignment, and they were talking to the folks in the media. One of the questions they got is, what's your next step? A change of venue, to dismiss the charges, whatever. If you were, and I'm sure you will, advise, speak to President Trump, what would you tell him his attorney's first move should be?
Well, the first move should be, they should do the change of venue. That should be done right away. Do it. But the first substantive motion should be to attack this indictment. And, there's so much to attack that I'd probably do it in stages. I'd probably go after some of the most obvious problems. For example, he hasn't really charged a felony. You can't take 2 misdemeanors and say they equal a felony. That's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. What he was going to try to do was he was going to take a state misdemeanor and hook it up with a federal felony. And then somebody told him, I guess, he's a state prosecutor, not a federal prosecutor, and the court doesn't have jurisdiction in New York to try a federal felony. So that would have been thrown out. So then he tries hooking this to a state misdemeanor, as if 2 misdemeanors equal a felony. Well, that would be one heck of a change in criminal jurisprudence, just to get a president. I mean, what a sad thing that we elected this man. And it is a reflection. It is a reflection on how brainwashed a lot of the people in New York are in voting for Democrats, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, Mayor, I appreciate you being here. We're going to have a lot more questions over the coming days and weeks, so I obviously want to have you back. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us tonight.